Okay, this goes on to further end starvation forever and turning lead into gold. I thought, why not? Anyhow, so we've got the blimp here that's used for collecting the water and it's sending it down a tube down to earth. Well, use this as an elevator. Have to be a strong tube. Use that as an elevator to the blimp, and then have another tube extending from the blimp out to a geosynchronous orbit satellite. That satellite would be used as a waypoint between the satellite and the moon. Therefore, we would be shipping mining materials or things to mine with to the moon, and we'd also be shipping ore from the moon and also finished products from the moon to the satellite, and from the satellite down to the blimp down to Earth using an elevator system. And therefore you get very cheap transportation to and from the moon. And by the way, this blimp contraption to capture the tornado killer would be used to drain clouds of its water for irrigation and stuff like that. Should be used carefully. Every 250 to 500 feet you would need to support the tube with balloons or whatever, but you'd also have to add fans on it to make sure that the tube stays where you want it, because the wind's going to want to blow the tube, but you want the tube to stay straight so that the stuff runs straight down to the bottom. Anyhow, once you get the mining stuff on the moon, you'd also want to make another, and the mining operation started, you'd want to duplicate that and send all that stuff off to Mars. Most likely with Mars it would be all robotic. With the moon it would be mostly robotic, but there would be some manpower to start it up probably. Once you got the digging started, you would excavate a room for a work chamber that would house a forge, and so you could produce other items that are needed for mining, and you can get the ore to a more purified level for transporting it. And you would excavate the chambers and put the dust, the debris outside, and basically using train type of a device, something on rails. Then you'd excavate another chamber where you'd house for light, and you want to put these chambers underground a little bit so that when the sun has solar flares, it will not fry your brains, because you're shielded underneath the surface of the moon far enough for the rays not to fry your brains. That's why you do this underground and you don't put it on top. You'd have a chamber and you'd power it with solar panels on the surface of the moon. That's one way to power it, and it should work quite well. And in the first chamber you'd have grass and stuff that would produce oxygen, and you might also have a few herd animals, maybe a few goats, whatever, and you'd have fruits and vegetables, and basically you'd have a chamber where you'd start producing oxygen. You could also produce oxygen because oxygen's already in the soil and other materials, but what we're we're doing here is we're producing food, enough food for people to live on that are working on the moon, and more in addition, so that we could feed everybody forever, up to like trillions of people, using the after you got the first two chambers, then you'd excavate another chamber off to the side, which would be bigger, for an area for growing and living, and then you would go off and excavate another one, and all the time this material that you're using, you're either producing materials out of the forge and then like producing robots, and you're also shipping back valuable minerals back to Earth, and then you go deeper and deeper into the moon, more and more chambers, in order to for more food and more living arrangements, and then you'd bring over cattle and have cattle have their own chamber so that you wouldn't have to breathe their waste. And go all the way down to the middle, and then you create a layer of solid metal with doors. That metal, the thicker you get, the more pressure you're going to be able to, because you're creating a pressure chamber. Now after you got that, then you excavate the inside of that chamber, and the thicker you got the walls, the higher the pressure that you could have the chamber. And then you heat up the middle of it, and what you've got is you've got an area where you could pressurize it to a great extent, then heat it up, and the material is not going to fuse or touch anything else. So you could really heat it up greatly. The center of gravity would be the center of the chamber, where there is nothing. It's like an alchemist's dream. And I think you could literally turn, well, you might be able to turn lead into gold. But in any case, it'd be a wonderful forge. And there'd be only places you could do it would be like on the moon and possibly on Mars. And definitely on Mars, you'd want to go down and see what's in the middle of the Mars. It might be a huge chunk of iron, might be a huge diamond. We just don't know. Anyhow, that's how you, and with those enough chambers to grow enough food, and then along with the, then you start growing, then you start mining the outer asteroid belts, and there's enough material and space in there to feed and house, trillions of people. So all we need to do is end starvation now and continue on with this process that I've described, and we end starvation forever, and hopefully we can get it started, because starvation sucks. Anyhow, check out my website, projectcharles.org, and I'll be posting more stuff on it there. Who knows?